Hello, my name is Mohammed Damani. I'm the Regional Executive Chef for the Mount Carmel Health System, and today I'm going to demo for you a quick chickpea curry. So I'm going to go over the ingredients that we have here first, and then we'll get cooking. Have a little bit of turmeric here, some crushed red pepper, curry powder, olive oil, black pepper, and salt as far as our seasonings. We have some green peppers, some ginger, garlic, canned diced tomatoes, coconut milk, canned chickpeas, fresh spinach, and fresh cilantro. So we're going to get started by chopping up the pepper here. If you don't have peppers, if you don't have green peppers, you can always use red peppers, you can use orange peppers, you could even use the mini sweet peppers. Those work well in recipes like this. Any other vegetables that you have hanging around in your refrigerator can go in this as well. We can do carrots, you can do asparagus, zucchini, anything like that would work. Just be careful if you're subbing out the vegetables with the water content, and make sure it's about an equal amount as to what we're putting in here, because it'll affect the sauce to vegetable ratio. So we're going to go ahead and chop these peppers into a dice. You want to cut down the sides, cut into strips, and then just chop down into your dice. And these dices, they don't have to be perfect. You want them all about the same size, but they don't have to be exactly the same size. And the best way I found is to just hold the pepper like this and kind of shave down the sides, and you can shave right along the white membrane there. You're not going to get a lot out of the top here or the bottom, but you can always turn here and just kind of slice that way, and then all of this can just be discarded. All right, now that we have our peppers chopped up, these are 2 whole bell peppers that we've cut up. We're going to chop our garlic. So with garlic, the best way to do it is to get the cloves away from the bunch. Take your knife, just very carefully press down, and you can kind of hear it pop there. And then you can take the peel off and get the garlic out. And it should pop right out there like that for you. Go ahead and get these other 3 where we need them to be. We have 4 cloves of garlic here. Feel free to use the pre-minced chopped garlic if you like, or the already peeled garlic. You can also substitute garlic powder if you have that laying around. Just be careful, you don't want the same exact amount of garlic powder as fresh garlic. You want to go a little bit less, probably about half the amount. So if this calls for 4 cloves, you're probably going to do maybe half a teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm just going to chop that down. Best way to do that is just kind of slice across first. And once you have it in little pieces, take your knife, gather up all the little pieces, and just run your knife across. And right here, what I'm doing is I'm taking my knife and I'm kind of using it to scrape all of the garlic into a bunch so I can just keep chopping it down. right, once we have that chopped down, we're just going to put it over here on our other board. Get it out of the way so we can go ahead and work our ginger. All right, so these are cloves of ginger here. So what you want to do is you want to peel these. So you can use a vegetable peeler. You can use a spoon. The back of a spoon works well also for this. With the vegetable peeler, you just want to make sure you go down the length of the ginger here. Try and get in those little nooks and crannies and kind of scoop around. Make sure you get all of that peel out. If you leave a little tiny bit of peel in there, it's not gonna hurt. You do want to get as much off as you can. Again, as with the garlic, with the ginger, if you want to substitute dry powdered ginger, you can as well. Just make sure you're reducing the amount down, probably by about half, maybe by a third. Also, there's pre-made ginger paste that you can buy in the produce section of the grocery store. You can use that as well. And this recipe calls for, I believe, 2 tablespoons of ginger, so we're going to use both of these bulbs here. I got my ginger all peeled up. There are a few pieces and flecks on here, which is fine. After you get it to that point, you can go ahead and chop it up. We're going to do it similar to how we did the garlic. We're going to slice it down into smaller pieces. And after we get those smaller pieces, we're going to run the knife through a couple times just to get a nice small chopper mince. So just go ahead and stack your ginger like that, run the knife through, bring it all back together, and just continue with that process till you get it down to a small mince. Every once in a while you want to stop and clean off your knife very carefully. All right, I have our ginger chopped, I have our garlic chopped, our peppers diced. Last thing I'm going to cut before I get cooking is this spinach. So I have 2 cups of fresh spinach leaves here, and this is 2 cups by volume, so it's not by weight. By weight, this is probably close to maybe an ounce. With the spinach, what I like to do is just take it, put it on the board, and you're going to kind of mash it down a little bit and roll it into a log. And then take your knife and kind of run it down just to get nice slices there. Just make sure you keep your fingers out of the way of your knife when you're doing this. Every once in a while we'll pull it back together. Keep chopping down. This is the best way I've found to chop spinach or leaves of lettuce or anything like that. Then you want to take the whole pile, turn it, and then run your knife one more time through it, and then you'll have some chopped spinach there. Pieces don't have to be uniform. It's going to go into this curry at the end, and it'll cook instantly and evenly distribute throughout it. All right. Now that I have all of the vegetables chopped, I'm going to preheat my pan, and when I come back, we'll start cooking. All right, we have our pan preheated. We preheated it over medium-high heat for just a couple minutes, just to make sure it was hot when we started to cook. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a little bit of olive oil. And then we're going to add our garlic, our ginger, and our green peppers. I'm going to go ahead and give those a stir. And while these are cooking, you want to add your curry powder, your turmeric, and your spices, because what's going to happen is the oil and the heat is going to help those flavors bloom. If you add these at the end, the flavor is not going to be as intense. This will also blend with the oil that's in here, and it'll carry the flavor throughout the dish. So I have all of our seasonings added in there. And we're going to cook this for about 2 to 3 minutes. Just so these vegetables start to get some color and are translucent, and so we can bloom those spices. All right, well, these have been cooking for just a couple minutes here. We got those spices bloomed. What we're going to do is we're going to add our canned diced tomatoes in here. And when we do that, the tomato juice is going to loosen up any brown bits that we have on the bottom of the pot here. So as you're pouring that in, keep stirring and kind of pulling up those brown bits on the bottom of the pan there. A nice stir there, and as you're stirring, it'll all scrape up off the bottom, and all of that is flavor, so you definitely don't want to leave that on the bottom of the pan. And also, if you don't scrape that up now, while you're simmering this, it will burn. So just make sure you get all of the brown bits off the bottom of the pan there. All right, go ahead and add in our coconut milk. The coconut milk will look separated. It'll have a layer of fat on top there. You can also use a light coconut milk if you're watching your fat, but this definitely for flavor is the best one to use. When it comes out, you can see you got the coconut water, you got the actual coconut milk solids. It'll all melt together, so there's no need to blend it up ahead of time. As it gets hot, it'll just melt and distribute throughout your curry. So we'll let that kind of cook down a little bit, let this coconut milk melt and then distribute throughout. And then we'll add in our chickpeas. All right, this has been going for a few minutes, trying to make sure that coconut milk is melted throughout. We got it at a good spot there. We're going to go ahead and add in our chickpeas. These are canned drained chickpeas. You can use dried chickpeas. Just make sure you soak them ahead of time. The canned ones are just convenience-wise. They're a lot easier. And just make sure you drain and rinse them before you put them in, because you want to get all of that canning liquid off of them. It kind of gets rid of that canned tinny taste that they might have. So we have all our ingredients in the pot. We're going to bring it to a boil. Once it's boiling, we're going to reduce the heat, cover, and then simmer for 20 minutes. We have it at a boil right now. You can see the bubbles starting to form in the pot. What we're going to do at this point is go ahead and cover the pot. We're going to turn the heat down to a medium-low. We're going to let this simmer for about 20 minutes. And then when we come back, we'll add in the spinach, and then we'll plate. All right. All right, so our curry's been simmering for around 20 minutes here. You can see all of the vegetables are nice and cooked through. We did stir once or twice while it was cooking just to make sure we weren't sticking to the bottom of the pot here. The last step to the recipe the spinach that I chopped up earlier. We're just gonna throw it right in the pot here. And this is, I've already turned the heat off. This is literally just gonna take seconds to cook. As you stir, it's gonna start to wilt. All right, like I said, as you stir, it's just gonna wilt right in there. I've already turned the heat off. You don't need the heat on there anymore. And you can see it's all done and cooked through. All right, I have a little bit of brown rice that I've cooked here. You can use white rice, you can use quinoa, any type of grain that you like. This can go right over it, or you can just eat it on its own as kind of a soup. So your choice there, but I do have a little bit of brown rice. We're just gonna go ahead and put a little bit of that curry right on top. Add a little more of the sauce there. And there you have it, a quick chickpea curry. Garnish with a little fresh cilantro. And there you go.
Hi, my name is Amy Shea and I'm nutrition faculty with Mount Carmel College of Nursing. We're going to talk today about the quick chickpea curry that you just saw prepared by Chef Mohammed. This recipe has so many wonderful nutritional aspects. It has lots of great fiber and healthy carbohydrates. It does offer some protein, no added sugar, and it's reasonable with the sodium content. But let's get into some discussion about coconut milk. So this is a product that maybe you've never used before in cooking. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the different things you'll see when it comes to coconut milk and how we're going to use that in this recipe. So first off, coconut milk is basically just the coconut flesh that's been pureed and mixed with liquid and then strained to kind of make a consistent liquid that you can add to recipes to add flavor and richness for the recipe. And so you'll see in this recipe, we are recommending that you use light coconut milk. And I know Chef Mohammed may have spoken to light versus regular coconut milk. The regular coconut milk is much higher in fat, so it will offer more of a richness to the recipe, but that's something we're kind of also always thinking about as far as the nutrition is not having too much fat. So let's look at the slide and you guys can see the difference in the nutritional content of regular versus light coconut milk. The main thing really comes down to calories and fat. So every gram of fat provides 9 calories, and that's why there is such a big difference here when it comes to the calorie content. So if you look at the regular cup of milk, regular coconut milk, a third of a cup has 140 calories, 14 grams of fat, and 13 of those 14 grams are saturated fat. Then if we look at the light coconut milk, for that same serving size, you have 45 calories, 5 grams of fat, 4 grams of those are saturated fat. So if you maybe have seen other videos, you might recall that saturated fat is the fat that we want to keep fairly low because that is going to be better for our heart health. So saturated fat is not helpful when it comes to heart health. So that's why we really want to try to choose light coconut milk for this recipe. Now, a couple other things to be aware of when it comes to coconut milk. The kind that we use in cooking is found in the can, and it's shelf stable, so it's not in the refrigerated section. It's usually found in maybe like the international foods aisle or the Asian foods area. So look for it there. So it's going to be in a can, and it's different from the coconut milk that you'll see in the carton, which maybe would be in the refrigerated milk section. So like the non-dairy milk substitute, like with your soy milk and your almond milk. There is coconut milk in that section. That's not what we want to use for cooking in this recipe. The coconut milk that you'll see in the carton has more sugar, usually some added vitamins and minerals and other things. And again, that's more like a milk substitute for maybe for cereal or for smoothies. But for cooking, we're looking for the milk in the can, the coconut milk in the can. And so again, you'll see regular or light. And with the regular, as I believe Chef Mohammed mentioned, you'll see some separating of kind of the fatty content separating to the top of that can. So you can just stir that in and it'll mix up, and that's fine. It all will mix together. But you'll see more of that separation if you're using a regular coconut milk versus a light coconut milk. There's also something called coconut cream, which is really that top layer without the liquid, so the watery part. You might see a can of coconut cream. That's not what we're using for this recipe. And there's even a third or fourth option called cream of coconut. which is that fatty layer with a lot of added sugar. And that's actually used more in like sweet recipes or something like a pina colada drink, something like that. So that's not what we want to use. So again, we're focusing on the canned light coconut milk for this particular recipe. So give it a try. I think you'll really enjoy that unique addition and adding those delicious flavors with the coconut milk. You can kind of think of light coconut milk as like the 2% of coconut milk. So if regular coconut milk is like whole milk, light is like 2%. So going to be better for you overall when it comes to the fat profile. Now, another thing about this recipe that I love is it does feature chickpeas. We talk a lot about beans and the health benefits of beans. Chickpeas are super delicious, wonderful bean, and you can see on this slide all the nutrition that they offer. So I know it's a pretty busy slide. You can pause the video and check it out in more detail if you'd like. But chickpeas do offer some great protein, so that's going to boost the protein content of this recipe. They also have really good fiber, which helps us with our gut health, bowel regularity. It helps also with lowering the bad cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol, to protect us from heart disease. And it can also help with blood sugar control. So for patients who have diabetes, that's going to be a healthy fiber for them to choose. Other things you can see, it's very high in folate, which is a very important nutrient. It also offers several different minerals, including iron and zinc and magnesium, so all kinds of important nutrition for our overall health. So I think you will really enjoy this delicious, quick chickpea curry.